Hi there, folks. I am putting together some variables. I'm putting together some screencasts on how we can use compute and if to recode variables quickly or to create new variables in ways that are useful for us. And one of the most common ways to use the compute together with if is if you're trying to reverse code a large variable. We could, of course, use recode, right? But imagine that you've got a 20-point scale where 20 is I very much dislike the current president. 1 is I very much like, and you want to reverse that so that a high of 20 means I really like the current president. Well, you could do and recode into like president 20. You could have recode 20 equals 1, 19 equals 2, and so on, but that's a lot of work. Let's see if there's a faster way to do it. And the example that I'm going to use is from a survey that asked Americans to place themselves on a scale of 1 to 10 related to which one of these statements they most agreed with. 1 was I would prefer the U.S. to be a nation made up of people belonging to a variety of religions. 10 said I would prefer the U.S. to be a nation primarily made up of people who follow the Christian faith. And people, put themselves on this. What if we want to create a variable that reverse codes that? So I'm going to create that variable. And we're going to tell SPSS to make a blank variable called compute prefer religion diverse US 10. I like this name because it tells me in basic language what the variable is going to do, and it tells me that 10 is the highest value that you can have on that, and that there's 10 categories. And I'm going to go ahead and tell SPSS to create this as a blank variable. So we'll go sysmiss, and there we go. And so if I run this, ta-da, and we go over and we look at my data set, we're going to see in the data set at the end, there's now a variable called prefer religious diverse US 10 where everybody's blank. All right. Anybody who labeled themselves 10 needs to be labeled 1. Anybody who labeled themselves 1 needs to be labeled 10. The other thing that the code book tells me here is that apparently, because people were asked to place themselves on the 10-point variable where 1 meant and 10, the variables are labeled such that only 1 and 10 are labeled. So that's the variable that I want to create, but I want them reverse ordered. Let's do a little bit of math here. Let's say on the original variable, 1 person with 1, 1 person with 10, 1 person with 7. If we take the maximum value of this variable, which was 10, and we go up 1, we get the number 11, right? What's 11 minus 1? It's 10. What's 11 minus 10? It's 1. What's 11 minus 7? It's 3. It turns out that if we take the highest value and we add 1 to it, we can subtract quickly to get the variable that we want. So I actually don't want sysmiss here. What I want is 11 minus whatever the value was for Q19. And so if you were 10, whoops, Q13 rather. If you were 10 on the original variable, I want you to be 1, and so on. This right here is going to create what we need. There's one last thing, however. In the original variable, we saw that you were labeled -1 if you skipped the question, and 426 people did. And it could be that you didn't know. It could be that you don't want to tell people. We don't know why they did this. I will tell you that I looked at similar questions on the survey, and I suspect a lot of people had a difficult time putting themselves in between. They knew they weren't 1. They knew they weren't 10. Were they 5? Actually, 5.5 is the middle of that scale. What were they? And so some people, I think, just said, hey, I don't know where to put myself on this scale. So that being the case, I better add an if statement that deals with people who were originally labeled -1 so that they're missing data in the new one. I'm going to say if the original variable equaled -1, then my new variable should equal system missing. It should be blank data. Right, and there's my two commands. I created this previously, but if I rerun the code after having made a mistake, it's going to go ahead and just run right over the top of it. So I'm going to hit go. I don't get any problems in here, anything that's saying that something went wrong. And so let's compare our old variables together with our new variable. So we're going to go analyze descriptive statistics frequency. We're going to put in our new variable. And my old variable, I'm going to find it more quickly by just putting in the variable labels. And if I do that, I can see diverse Christians. There's my scale. All right. So I've got a bunch of variables that I don't need that I created before. And I'll tell you what, let's go analyze descriptive statistics. I didn't actually put it in. Let's get rid of the rest of these. And let's get my variable again and put it in there. Sorry about your time here. So I don't want the Western Heritage. I want the Christian. There we go. So now we've got my two variables here. And what we'll see is before 17% skipped, 426% people skipped. Now 426 are missing. That's good. The new variable, the highest value of 10 has 574. It looks like it is reverse coded from before where it was 1. Our 10s before were 240. We have 241 now. So we've successfully reverse coded that. One last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and label my new variable just because I'm here. So I'm going to go variable labels. All right, I've got variable labels, prefers a diverse US. That looks good to me. I'm just going to run that and rerun my descriptive statistics frequencies, make sure that it puts it on the top. Prefer religious, it doesn't look like it did. Oh, that's because I haven't done an execute yet, so it's not willing to do that. All right, so I better do the value labels and then we'll do an execute. Value, oops, always better to let SPSS spell it for me if it's willing to do it. Okay. Here, again, I only want to label the 1 value. I want to label the 10 value. I'm putting in quotation marks, I'm going to have a period, and then I'm going to have an execute. Boy, we're doing all kinds of things here. Execute, period. All right, what are my numbers going to be? I want 1 on the new one. I'm too lazy to type this out. So I'm going to do this right here. This was the 10 before. Bring that up there so it'll clean it out. I don't want a period there because it would end the command. And so my other one, my 1 is now my 10. And I need the quotation mark at the end. All right. So my 1 is reversed, my 10 is reversed. I've got the period that I need and I've got the execute. So now I'm going to go ahead and run the variable labels and it will put them there because I've got the execute command. And I'm going to throw this away. Look at that. It's saying that I've got a problem. Let's see. Invalid symbol. What have I got going here? I would prefer... I truly don't know what's going on there. Value labels, prefers US. Don't know. Just like y'all, sometimes I get stuff in mess. So I'm going to hit, so text prefers a US variable. Appears in value labels. So that's where my problem is. Let's see what I've got going here. Don't know. So let's go ahead and just, let's clean it off, try to run it again. I don't think I'm going to fix the issue, but you get to watch me troubleshoot, which is great because that sometimes happens to you guys too. So I'm just going to run the whole thing again. And let's see, it's going to say that there's still a problem. Oh, I know what the problem here is. Look at this. Value labels and variable labels It's asking, hey, what variable do you want labeled? So there you go. This, by the way, is a common mistake students make too. And in both cases, I've got to cut and paste and tell it what to do. And now, my friends, I'm going to close this up and say no, and I grab it and I run it, it's going to do it just fine. And if I go analyze descriptive statistics frequencies, I've got my two variables there. I've got my tables. Everything is labeled in both. They've been reversed. Boom! I created the compute variable that I wanted to do. And I could re-record this screencast because I've got extra information in there when something went wrong. But you know what? I think it's worth you seeing that your instructor makes the same mistakes students make all the time. And you just have to work through it and you have to figure out what's missing. And that's what I did. So I'm going to go ahead and post this for folks.